think it's hilarious. We're just going to jump in. Today we're talking about death. You're with a smile on your face and I'm like smiling and we're like, we're talking about death. Just jump right in.
First experience witness someone passing away was when I used to manage an assisted living. I am here with Dr. Asia, and today we're going to talk about dying, and she's going to answer our questions.
What I've come to realize is that my whole goal is to help other people with the process of either transition or transformation.
I am here with Dr. Asia, and today we're going to talk about dying, and she's going to answer our questions about what we can expect, how she helps us. I found it so fascinating what she does. And I couldn't believe people actually do this for a living. I'm going to let her introduce herself because I don't want to do any disservice. Dr. Asia?
Thank you so much for having me. And I think it's hilarious. We're just going to jump in. Today we're talking about death. You're with a smile on your face and I'm like smiling and we're like, we're talking about death. Just jump right in. You didn't even give a soft landing. You were just like, no, guys, we're talking about death. And I love that because it's just a part of the life. None of us are getting off of this rock without going through the death process. But I think that so much of what we're doing is just the life part. The death part is like an afternote. And so you end up with all of this stress and drama and everything that comes along with it. My name is Dr. Asia. I am a spiritual guide and a sound healer. And I am also an ordained reverend with the Wisdom of the Sacred Heart Church. And what I've come to realize is that my whole goal is to help other people with the process of either transition or transformation, or the process of becoming and living your most aligned life. So when talking about this, we are talking about living in alignment all the way through and having the most honorable of lives by having an honorable death as well. And so that's what I do. Several deaths have happened in my life, and I learned quickly that you don't take on death as a part of your life, then you end up in fear throughout your life. And then at the end of your life, everybody around you is making these decisions out of an emotional state where they're not even really in their right mind. And so what I found is that you bring in someone else, someone objective. A lot of us call it a death doula. Like you have a birth doula who helps with bringing life in to this world. Then you have a death doula, which is someone who helps with the transition out to the next realm. That may be whatever you believe that is. So that's pretty much what it is in a nutshell. It's just helping someone get to the next step, that next transition, which is how it aligns with what I do with the rest of my life. I have courses, spiritual guidance, virtually. I have a life path reading that I do where I incorporate like kinds of different design, astrology, intuitive energy. Then I also do like energy healing and of that sort. What I found was my energy work was helpful. So I have all open centers like the throat. In human design, it's just called a mental projector. So I have closed centers below the throat, which means that if somebody stands close enough next to me or I'm having a conversation with someone, I end up being able to feel and engage in their energy without trying. It just happens. So in the death work, what happens is you get to that point where you can't speak for yourself. There's a lot of fear or reason you don't want to say things around your family as you're transitioning out. You call in someone like me and I can feel and help sense what you need at that time in the process of transitioning, and kind of that with the rest of the family. So I would say that whereas can sometimes be just for the family, they bring in like nurse and everybody to try to communicate with the family, I work more specifically on behalf of the person who's transitioning.
First experience witness someone passing away was when I used to manage an assisted living. And I had this biggest fear of what happens? What do I need to do? If one of my residents pass away, what are the procedures? What type of help are there? I do understand certain aspect The time when my resident did pass away was involved. And so I got to understand the roles that hospice play when it comes to family and being there for the resident, whereas medication and different things like that. But I will say, if I didn't have that direct experience, it would be a little difficult for me to see how the two play hand in hand.
Okay, so there are steps before we even get to the death part, right? You'll have like a lot of residents who are either maybe just tired or just coming up, or like just take me now, or but then you have to know that they are getting towards that end stage. They're doing more of that preparatory work, trying to put their affairs in order, if it makes sense. So I believe the question is, how does a death doula help at that part? Or
Yes.
so in the beginning parts where the person is still verbal, they're still able to make decisions, I would say that what you would want to do is bring in a death doula who's going to be able to then communicate and ask those questions. A lot of times family doesn't want to ask those questions. So what do you see as your end days? What would you like to be? What would you like the room to look like? Do you want incense? Do you want candles? What kind of music do you like? Do you want a priest? Do you want a pastor? Do you want your church choir to come and see you? What is the list of people you want to make sure that you've seen before you go? Is there anybody you do not want around you? What happens is the death part starts coming, and then people come out of the woodworks, right? And then it's like, oh, my best friends, like, we did not like each other. And I want you understand that just because I'm dying now, that does not mean I like you now. No, you were your terror, and I don't want you know what I mean? But that's what I'm saying, is that the doula presents or represents the person who's making that transition. So in the beginning parts, if they're still able to talk, then you're able to gather all of this information. You can write it down, put it on a video, put it in a journal or whatever, so that you have this information as, depending, it can go fast. It can go slow. Death process sometimes can take months, can take 2 months. And I'm not talking about the dying process, because considering we are all dying, and we've all been dying since the day we were born, okay? I'm talking about the dying process, right? Where you've gotten a cancer diagnosis or some type of, diagnosis, and it's like you have 6 months to live. You're talking about that end stage where it's like, okay, and you're able to still talk. You want to be able to get these things out. Who you want the room to look like? What's comfortable for you? Is 75 too warm? Is 75 too cold? Like, detailed kind of music do you want played? At some point you will not be able to talk, as you kind of start shutting down. You know what I mean? And you want to be able to say, this is what I want as things are shutting down. Don't feed me pudding. I hate pudding. You want to be able to say these things before the time comes. And I think that having that interview process, or that getting to know process with like doula, kind of bring it to normal. We just make it normal, have the conversation. You're going to bring the death on if you mention these things, It's like, no. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to make it normal. We're going to have the conversations.
Death is something we all going to have to face with, right? But then there are different phases of that planning, right? So you have the pre-planning phase where you're learning about what the person wants to see, what they want to have. So what does the next phase look like?
So after you've pre-planned and you're having these conversations with the person, when that person gets to the part where they can no longer talk, it then becomes more of a feeling type of a phase, where basically having to be open. This is where a lot of us who are like sensitive people, a lot of us doulas are like, we have ability to sense, or the ability to feel other people's feelings. And so that's when comes into play, where we're coming in and we're checking in. How are they feeling? Conversation through touch, through sitting close, visuals, or however gift works for you. You may be a person who can see around somebody, what they call like aura, you know what I mean? Might get too woo, but like people are able to like surround a person, and they can see the color around the person, and based off of that color, then they know this person is cold or this person is uncomfortable. The goal is just to make the person as comfortable as possible. You want to be there for your person transitioning. So yeah, you guys are great. Family, cool. I'm going to give you updates, but I'm here for the person to make sure that they are comfortable. Drugs help sometimes, you know what I mean? Because what happens in some hospices is you get, they give you a drug for anxiety. They give you a drug for pain, for nausea, depending on your person is going through. Then it's up to this person that's administering the drugs to decide, did that sound like they're in pain, or they're going to just kind of time. Sometimes when you're going, it's like, did I miss the pain point? Are they in pain right now? The person moaning, and like, what does this moan mean? You know what I mean? Discomfort. You just need different pillow, or you want to be able to like that, where you're giving or sensing, or however it works, to comfort. You're just there to give comfort, and that's that phase of just comfort.
I have witnessed a client is transitioning, and very much what you describe is pretty much what happens. Sometimes they go by time, every X amount of hours. Other time they go by based on their professionalism, what they feel is the best case. So in a case where if someone already have hospice and they want someone like you to work with hospice to provide the most care that person need, how do you work around that, or how do you work with that?
So no, I would work with hospice. I'm done hospice. So most of my skill set came through the work that I did with my grandmother. We spent a month together transitioning. And it was interesting because as I'm going through the process, so many people kept telling me that she's giving me a gift, and I couldn't see it at the time. I was like, no, she's not, she's dying. Like, this ain't right, And I had just lost my son. So it was just me. It was just like a lot of emotion. At some point, my son's transition ended up helping me with this transition, because for however it worked, getting into the weeds about the woo-woo of it all, right? And however it worked, he was there helping me and saying things like, this is what you're here for. Like, the ability to be able to sense what my grandmother was feeling when she could no longer talk, the way that we communicated. And that's when I learned that what I can do. I had no idea until I had to do this for her. Hospice brought in for me at that point a therapist, because I was the hospice worker at that point, right? So I'm not trained at that, it's like no certifications. I said, I'm going to do it. They brought in a therapist, which of course, if somebody tells you they're going to help their grandmother die, you're bringing in a therapist, right? They gave me a nurse. The nurse did the medical part. And so I think that what happens is when a family gets hospice care, then the therapist is there for the family. The grief of the family. You get a nurse and you get maybe an aide to help with like bathing and the day-to-day stuff. The nurse will come every couple of days, check in. Are they showing the signs medically of dying? How is their blood pressure? What does their skin look like? What does their reaction look like? Hospice therapist is there for the family. So what a death doula is there for the client, for the spiritual needs, the emotional needs, the non-tangibles of the person transitioning. That's really, I think that brings in like whole circle, if that makes sense. Everybody's covered at that point. What happens is, for example, family calls and they're like, how is she doing? A lot of times, many family are hoping for miracles. You can come back. She can get up out that bed and she's going to start walking, or you can definitely take a turn for the better because you're not done with him yet. I'm like, okay, no.
That denial phase.
So a lot of times that mindset or that feeling can be making it worse for the person, the transitioner, let's call them, leaving. Goal is to leave peacefully, comfortably, honorably, right? And now in their head, they're hearing, no, don't go. We don't want you to go. We're not ready for you to go. You see what I'm saying? It caused that rift. So a doula comes in and the doula's like, look, they're fine. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. What are they doing? They are progressing. I need for you to be the person that lets them know it's okay. If you're not ready for it's okay to go, I can help you with getting to it's okay to go. A lot of times people won't leave until they know that it's okay to go. They need all of their messages. Wait, I got one last thing. I got to tell somebody. One last thing. And if I can feel what that message is and who that message is for, sometimes I can help with getting that person there. You're not coming. We don't know why Betty's not coming to see John go. Betty, John would love it if you come. John really has something he needs to share with you. And if you come, that would help John. Betty's like, no, because he's going to get up and he's going to start walking next thing. Betty, that's not going to happen, okay? You're making it harder for John. John would like for you to know he's fine. He's ready to go. He's done his time here. So that's something that I think hospice does not do, you know what I mean, on behalf of the person that's transitioning.
I understand that. And I've seen some of it because being that I witnessed this whole thing happen where a resident transitioned, and you can see the disbelief with the family members, and you can see denial phase, right? They just can't believe it. They don't want them to go. And I have also witnessed that same person that they will wait until someone shows up. They see that someone before they actually leave. So I think it's very profound what you do. And a lot of people don't know these resources are available. And I want to ask though, because you sound like you're so in tune with what you do and you're so good at it, have the degrees behind it, showing how in depth you go into this. I want to ask you, how did you get into what you do now? And what are the things that you've done further educate yourself to make sure that when you show up, you are the most help that someone can get for their loved one?
Thank you. I'm sounding like it makes sense because a lot of times I'm talking, it feels like maybe the person can see it because like I'm not talking about death, like everyone's like, we're gonna turn off your video because they're like talking death, click, like it's not allowed, that kind of a thing. So I can even start earlier, way back even before my son, I would say like 2019, when I started having like whole awakening experience. My awakening experience kind of these nudges, like you're supposed to have a community, you're supposed to do this, your story. But I thought that it had at the time to do with like thing that I was doing. And so I thought it had to do with that. And so I'm like to build up this community around this other thing. And one day the question comes, what happens if you lose it all? And I'm like, well, I lose it all. I guess I don't know. I had kind of been starting to get this preparation. That was COVID at that time. And I thought we were talking COVID, so I'm like, it's fine. I'm good. This is losing it all. I got this. And it was just real big and on it, right? And I'm doing my work like more about, I guess, gifts, non-tangibles, non-physical, like time I didn't even know metaphysics as like degree work was even available. So it was more about like with ancestors and working. It was kind of in on that realm. In the same time, people are telling me their secrets in random lines, like a store, and just telling me their secrets. And I'm like, do I look like, and I guess I did. And so like just come up to me and start talking about things they did that their wife doesn't even know. And I'm like, okay,
That's
collecting
crazy.
I'm like collecting this information and just like, didn't know. I had no idea. Halfway through, or I don't know where we were in the process, in October in 2020 is when my son was killed. And at that point, there was no preparation. It's just you wake up one day, he's gone. There was no goodbye. There was no nothing. And I was just kind of shock mode. But at the same time, it was like, oh, you lose everything kind of and then so it was like, oh, because at that point now I've lost the ability to just like live, you know what I mean? Like was like, but I have, two other children. And so then it's like, all right, well, we've got to live. I guess the message was you can lose everything and rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
So the death card is like card for the Scorpio in the tarot. Okay. The death card in tarot, people get scared of, but it's really the rebirth part. So at this point, I've had this whole, I'm going to build this community, and the community where the phoenix, we reborn from the ashes. I'm talking the talk, right? Oh yeah, we're rebuild, we're blah from the ashes, blah. And then this happens. And it becomes, okay, are you sure? Is this what you know what I mean? Like, talk the talk, Phoenix. So now where are we? And I was like, I can see where this is going. And everything about his death was nonsensical. It's not like in other, situations where like there's a sickness or, it was just, he's here.
Suddenly.
Yeah, I had no idea. I had, nothing, of it. Well, this was October of 2020. December of 2020, my grandmother starts showing signs for her, like the checking out, if that makes sense. I'm like, not ready for this. Like, I get some time, February of 2021, I'm in New York now with my grandmother, and she is in the hospital at that point. She can still talk, but you have to understand, my grandmother spent 20 years preparing me for her death. So for 20 years, she was like, hey, this is going to happen. I want this dress. I want this. I've already paid for the funeral. I've already paid for this. Don't make them ask you for more money. Like 20 years. Okay. And it's part of the train, right? I'm not putting it all together though, why? And she's in the hospital and I'm telling them, this is what she wants. What we are doing to her right now is not what she wants. And against what her family, her sisters wanted, I'm the one that had to come in. She had written it down. And that's something I would tell everybody. Write it down. If you want somebody to be your person, write it down clearly and succinctly, that you want somebody to be your person, because the family's going to come in. They'll come with all of these different reasons, what she wants right now. And so you have that person. Begin the conversation at 40. This is what I tell my mom and my dad and my sister. Begin the conversation at 40. All my kids know what I want. You know what I mean? And they're like, oh, but you're never going to die. Cool. Right. I'm going to be the one person who made it out of this, but no, I want to start with that. But when I got to the hospital and I'm explaining now, I'm here, this is what's happening in the hospital. She's scared. She's making these weird noises. It's not her. It's basically what I'm like, is this what we're doing? And she's like, yes. She goes, I'm scared. And I'm like, no need, Grandma. I got you, that thing. So I go to tell the nurses, this is what we're going to do. I come back. Now she has fallen asleep. And apparently the nurses are just like, what? Nobody ever wants to remove their person from the hospital. We need your sign off that this is what you want to do. So they're waking her up. Like she back to, I get to see her son again. I'm like, Grandma, you saw my son? And it's funny because she never mentions his name in that whole interaction, because she could never really figure out his name. It was all like, she always thought that my oldest daughter was his name, and I was like, so you saw my son? And she's like, yes. And I was like, going back to Grandma, hang out with you more. And that was always a thing. Their conversations had always been, I'm coming and I'm going to hang out with you whenever that, yeah. So that was the point where I was like, okay, he's here. He's going to help me through this situation. The being able to feel her emotions and help her through what the process looks like, leave for a couple of days. They go to the other side, do whatever, looks like they're dead almost, they like a communication with people that you can't see this in, as I guess a part of the learning process, nudity becomes a big part of death somehow, of these things. And afterwards was done up. It was close to Mother's Day in May 2021. I went to a medium, called on the phone, and the medium had 15 minutes because I wasn't going to pay for a lot, right? So in that 15 minutes, the first person who comes through is my grandmother. And the first thing that she says is thank you. And I'm like, awesome. Okay. Cause I like, it was hard because I'm, doing all this other stuff and battling the family and, whatever. Last person who comes through is my son. And of course, his last thing is, I'm sorry. This is not what I expected, but I'm always going to do type thing, and I'm like, awesome. And that kind of brought in the whole idea of, well, what is this life and what does it look like? And I started more study, more on ancestral veneration, because growing up in the church, you're told none of that. You're right.
No. When you're dead, you go to heaven and you don't speak to nobody else.
That shot, you're either in heaven or you're in hell. If somebody's talking to you, it's a demon. like
Yeah.
that are not helpful. You know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, so what am I experiencing? So I wanted to see, I wanted more. I needed to know. And so that's where I ended up getting in on the whole, degree, finding, ways to, I mean, taking in the energy work, I did not realize that there was an actual name for it or whatever. So doing like one certification, the vibrational bit and this therapy part of it, that using music, someone is transitioning is so helpful because the vibration, how they feel can be so, comforting or like warming or, giving them the ability to like come in and out.
So
So all of these different, aspects of sound, even and of energy healing, and being able to help others to say that feeling that you're feeling, not even
mhm.
your feeling, that's their feeling. To say, okay, this is feeling. What can we do with their feeling? Because right now you're feeling anxious. That's their feeling. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
working through that process as a doula. So that was basically my education and how I ended up in on it, and finding this
Wow.
people who are just like me, and with people like you who open up more awareness of it, because none of us are leaving this rock without going through this process. So you might as well make it outside of, like, I had the, crash death, right? Like, but if you know that your end days are coming, the best way to die, honestly, right? Like, is either doing something that you love. But I would think the second best way to go is knowing that you're getting your needs met. You are getting your communications out to those around you, your family feeling comfort and knowing that your transition is the most comfortable for you. And so that's what I think that a death doula provides.
That is amazing. You provide so much help because even with the anxiety portion of it, right? Like, imagine a family member is having this anxiety, and you can say, this anxiety does not belong to you. This is what to do about it.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
it's so profound because of us, not only do we not want to have the conversation, we want to pretend like our loved one will never pass away. We want to pretend like if hard enough, situation will change. And we want to
Mhm.
pretend that we ourselves are dying. For me, I've always known that I needed to be more intentional. So I know, like, if it's something we don't know, is when our day will be, right?
Right.
So I've always been intentional about what I do with my time, what I do with my life. Am I making a difference? All of these things. But honestly, I have not planned about dying.
It could be as
I
easy
have
as just writing out like a folder and like in there what to do if I'm found dead, and out what she wanted to wear and all things. But it can be as easy as just writing it out and just get somewhere, take a picture and have your person, you know.
something that we all think about, I think, regardless of how old we are, because unfortunately, like happened to your son, we just never know. And for most of us who are either caring for a parent, right, or older parent, where you assume death is nearer than someone who's younger, having those early enough and putting those documentations in place, and like that, having your person, who are some people that could get their paperwork in order, right? Some of those early planning phases. Do you also provide that type of coaching to family members?
I really do not. However, I
Mhm.
find it so easy. When I was in school, I was able to get free legal service. And I'm 20, I think I was like 25 or at the time, Bill, you know, and they're like, it's free. And I'm like, okay, I'll take two. So is that finding someone do that legal service, Rocket Zoom, you can do a will, you can go
Mhm.
to Office Max or what do they call them now?
Mhm.
Office Depot or something. And they have a
Mhm.
packet that you can put together on your own. I sent the packet and it was like, just fill this stuff out, so the way all prepared, and they're like 60 or something, and they're like, well, this is
Mhm.
hard questions. I'm like, yeah, things that we need to know. So send any of those resources like that. It doesn't always have to be, a type situation.
Mhm. Okay. Well, that's helpful. And for those who may want a lawyer, I do those resources that we can provide to you, but it's very helpful to know that this is very feasible to put this plan to have your person to you could stop at Office Depot and get the paperwork going and even stuff down, a lot from our conversation, both from being someone who have managed an assisted living and someone who is in with family members. They'll reach out to me if they come across issues with caring for their seniors. And for someone who haven't even thought about dying yet, right? And so I think there's so much to gain from the that you do provide, and you have a doctorate degree in this thing.
Well, my degree in metaphysics, which is basically all of the things, angels, spirit, consciousness, oneness, universal, divination. It's in this situation since nobody wants to talk about it. Yes. I did have to do a course on death and dying.
I think it's amazing what you do, the services you provide. I think it's just so much to think about, even as you're planning, you're reaching to resources that may be available to you. What are some ways you work with one family members, whether it's in assisted living, right? Whether it's in a facility or at home, and what's the best way that they can reach out to you?
I partner with hospice and, especially in like assisted living facilities. And that way the hospice is taking care of the family, the therapy of the family, the medical needs, transitioning, the part that I'm providing so that we do create this holistic all around wrapper. So this is taken care of with the most honorable, the most comfortable possible. And then working with families, I can help with just bringing in, if we're not going to use hospice, getting that part going, the questions that should be asked of and bringing in that conversation in a more normalized way so that the family can feel normal about a situation that not a lot of times people don't feel normal about.
That is so amazing. And I appreciate your time. I'm very grateful that you spent this time to educate our audience. And if there's anything that you wanted me to ask and we didn't cover, please drop in the comments and we'd be more than happy to making sure that you have the resources and your questions are answered. We'll see you in the next one.